Sweet. So, a bit of a formal introduction here. I'm here with Kristian this afternoon, or this evening I should say. We'll have a little chat about your experience tutoring, how that's all been going for you so far. So how long have you been tutoring for now?
I was actually quite lucky because I did year 12 further by distance ed in year 10. So I started, I started in year 11. So coming up to 4 years now. So
wow.
Yeah. It's been a nice journey, you know, especially starting a little bit earlier. Then
that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So so you would have been tutoring before you came on board with us then?
That's it. So year 11, 12. I met you guys first year uni. It was.
Yeah. I actually remember meeting your volumes. And
that's in Altham.
And the interview and all that in between.
Yeah, that's it.
Ways, Sweet. Awesome. So as a tutor, what's the best moment that you've had so far?
I would say my best moment sort of happens every single time I get a new client. So every time, you start a new client, and it can be quite daunting when you're starting with someone and you're wondering, am I going to connect with this person? Are they going to be able to, receive the help that I want? So the discovery session is great because it definitely breaks the ice.
Yeah.
But the best moment that I always find is every time we have our first lesson, I leave that lesson and it's a success.
Yeah.
And when it is, it's so affirming to me that, because it's like a mini job interview, right? So as soon as you're leaving and you're like, you know what, this has worked and we are going to excel with this student, that to me is one of the best moments for me, because I know we're going to lock in a good relationship. We're going to be able to, to help each other out.
That's very cool. I love that as a best moment, because you're totally right, and it's so uplifting when you can see that you're going to make an impact on this person. And what I love looking at when it comes to tutoring is that student gets a bit of a taste for success, and when I work on this I actually get better at it, then that sort of trickles out into their other subjects. So even if you aren't tutoring them directly in another subject,
just the confidence.
Confidence just spreads it. I think once they're like, I can have this session where I can make mistakes and Kristian's not going to yell at me or laugh at me. So maybe I can do that in the classroom too, and they do. And I mean, one dick kid can ruin that for an entire class. But to know that there's someone you can go to ask those questions, make those mistakes in a safe place, it's such a cool thing for a student, I think. That's awesome. Cool. So, without bragging, because of course this isn't a brag question, but what is it that you do best as a tutor?
I think, obviously in the most humble way possible, I think that the greatest attribute that I've sort of developed over the time is being able to be very emotionally aware with the client. So I find that the more I start, taking further lessons with a student, I become very receptive to when they're not understanding something, and that is very great because the majority of clients that I've had in the past is that they're actually not very strong students. So you'll get, the 1 out of 10 wants you because they want their A to be an A+. But the rest of the 9 out of 10 students are actually there because, they've got a need and you're there to meet it. And one of those, what may come with that need is a lowered confidence. So if you're relying on the client solely to tell you when they don't understand something, that's going to be very difficult. So having the ability to sort of really pick up on their weak points, now that could either be emotionally, right? Or it could be, for example, in methods, I'm going to give you an extended response paper, right? I'm going to give you an extended response question. You're going to start it and you're not going to know where to go in every single element. Because the thing is, when it comes to methods, is that you can start off, you and I can spend the whole term doing short answer papers, and we can develop every little nitty-gritty technique that's required. I give you an extended response paper, and you're going to have to put them all together, and yet you get stuck, right? So being able to, as a tutor, being able to see where the client is stuffing up, it helps because it brings out an element of confidence that they can trust you. You know what I mean? When they're gonna enter a hardship, they know that you're going to be there to pick them up. And what the easiest trap to fall into as a tutor, is to start off your lessons going in there and wanting to be there only to fill the hour.
Yeah.
And when you're there to only fill the hour, you're going to start issuing questions solely for the sake of issuing questions. And so if you're not going to give a question right and pre-think, the 4 or 5 steps to get to that 5 answer.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That's all right. You go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. I think we can get one of these for each one.
So you've given a paper and you know that there's going to be 5 or 6 steps involved, right? If you're not there to pre-think the steps that are going to happen, you're not going to be able to pick up on the most difficult challenges that client's going to face. And as soon as you pick up on an issue that the client's facing, hone in on it. You know what I mean? Because it's very easy. If I say, diff log of x, yeah, you're either going to know it or you're not going to know it. I'll give you an extended response paper. You're not going to be able to understand that fully. I'm going to have to decipher where you don't know, because majority of the time you know all the techniques, but it's the confidence of being able to draw it in. So being able to develop, like I said before, a great, an emotional intelligence to sort of really be very receptive to where the client is facing difficulties. Yeah, it's going to definitely help.
Awesome. So insightful, and I love that, because it really is true, and I've never thought about it in that way before. So I love that you brought it up like that. That whole, if you go there to fill the hour, and that's something that as starting out as a tutor, you might just be like, hey, how do I actually? What do I do for an hour? That's a long time. How do I do that? Whereas,
awkward silence.
Exactly. And sort of worrying when that all, and that's a whole nother conversation about the silence and how that's actually good, because it means they're thinking and taking stuff on board. But I love that in terms of filling the hour, as opposed to give them a question, see where they falter, and then start breaking that down. Because you can't just go in and go, we're going to work on this, this, and this, because you don't know. You could start working on the first thing and have something somewhere where they trip up. And then you can go into that and give them smaller questions that build up that knowledge and then move on. I love that. I've never thought about that in that context before. So
like you said in another video that I saw, that whole thing of I don't know what to do. Yeah, that terrible question of I don't know what to do. I don't know. Yeah. As soon as you start breaking that down, you realize they actually do know what to do. It's in parts. In parts, they just don't have. May not just have the confidence to string everything together. So
for sure.
If you're able to pre-think, they're gonna. If they can get this part, they'll be able to get this part. If they're not getting, to this answer here, they're missing out on this element. This is what I need to target, because you do have a common interest as a client and as a tutor. It is to build up the client. So
I love that. That's such a great answer. All right, and the final question, which is, what is the biggest tip that you have for other tutors, starting tutors, whoever?
I think the biggest tip that I have that took me a while to develop myself is not becoming very emotionally attached to your style of learning, and not being very emotional to how you learn. Because is it you've got to get above 40 to be a tutor with Triumph, so you're in the top 8%, isn't it? Yeah, okay.
That's it.
Okay, so obviously you've got there for a reason. There's hard work, there's been persistence, there's been sacrifices along the way. So it's very common for starting out tutors and tutors that are neglecting to reflect on themselves to become very personal with how they learn. And so, I'm going to sit down with you and you don't understand this question. I can either take it as a challenge for me to present it to you in another way, or I can be short with you and hostile with you. Exactly, like I rote learned, why can't you rote learn? You know what I mean? And then as soon as that happens, whether it's a direct hostility or an underhanded hostility, the issue is you're not adapting to the client. Okay, so
they pick up on that.
Of course, and that it's really not good for relations. If that starts happening and you don't get it on top of it straight away, the relationship can really fall down very quickly. So don't be very personal with how you learn. And another big thing is not to if the client isn't understanding, don't start thinking that that's a reflection on your understanding. Because especially when it comes to new clients here, you're fresh out of year 12, but you're not so much fresh because you've had the whole summer, you know what I mean? So now it's like, oh geez, I'm March and I've done, chemistry how many months ago now? They're not understanding. Does that mean I don't understand anymore? If you are entering the path of self-doubt, it's gonna show very easily.
It shows up in the way you interact with them. 100%. That's so insightful. I love that. Thank you so much for hanging out today and sharing some of that. We're definitely going to get another one from you because you've got so much more to share. I can see that. But insightful as always. That's brilliant.
Cheers, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
That was awesome.